Good morning. Welcome, actually. Good afternoon. It's just after lunch. I just had lunch. Day's gone quick. Mate, it's been a while since I've done a live feed, so I thought been very busy of late, and it's been so hot to do anything outside. So I've been, obviously it's too hot to go camping. Where I am, like yesterday, it was 37 degrees Celsius. So hence why the videos have been a bit quiet of late. And plus there's family issues. Not issues, family things that's come up, emergencies that's come up. That of course it's more important than doing YouTube, guys. So, and frankly, I needed a little bit of a break. I went a little bit overboard there at one stage. So I thought, it's a cooler day today. So, amazing after being 37 degrees yesterday. Incredible. So I thought, I'll show you briefly what I've been... Hi Tim, I think I saw Tim Ryan put a chat up there. So I thought I'll show you briefly what I've been up to since I've been hiding away from the camera for a while. So I've taken up a bit of another hobby. It all started when I decided to build a hobby railway set, and so I've got a couple of trains and quite a number of carriages, and so I want to build one at home in my spare hobby room here. And that's what I'm going to call this now. This room here, it's the size of it's a pretty big single car garage. Huge one that's attached to the house. When we bought it, it had a roller door out the front. So we removed the roller door, put a sliding lockable screen door and a sliding glass door obviously, and put tiles, nice white tiles on the floor. So it's also my storage room. So as you can imagine, at my age, over the years, I've accumulated quite a fair bit of stuff, but I've also sold a lot of stuff. Since I've purchased the camper trailer, it's amazing how much stuff you don't need anymore. Just incredible. So I'm slowly getting rid of stuff that I don't need anymore and replacing it with hobbies and that I used to have in the past, and I'm having a great time at it. One of them is building models, and I'm going to show you what I've been up to of late very shortly. So I started, I tell you what, let me say, any of you guys have ever got anything to do with the model railway in, you know, HO scale, N scale and all that, it's quite expensive, not a cheap hobby. So I want to build a fairly big set here, and I found that hi Jennifer, how you going? I found that it was getting really expensive buying the buildings already made. Hi Robin, how you going? Say hi to Terry. It's getting really expensive buying the buildings. Like for example, I started buying these little buildings. Let me go show you an example. So here's a couple of buildings. This cost me about $70-80. I kid you not. It's just a bit of plastic. Alright? And it was in pieces, and you had to put it together, and you had to paint it as well at that price. This tiny little thing here was recommended retail about $120, but I got it on sale for about $75, $80. So then, let me just put these back. So then it got me thinking, boy, I'm looking at the size of the railway set I want to build. And I'm thinking, I'm going to need 20 buildings at least. And then I look in the prices, what I paid for them. I thought, shit, I'm going to spend thousands. And I don't have thousands to spend on something like that. You know, to buy these buildings. And frankly, guys, they look like a toy. They're just a plastic toy. Now, so then I started thinking about, well, maybe this is a good excuse to get a 3D printer. I've always wanted a 3D printer. I looked into them about a year or two ago, and I wasn't happy with the quality. The qualities were really, really poor. And I thought, oh, that looks like shit. That's crap. You know, I don't know what people are going on about it. So I didn't worry about it. So I never looked into it. But boy, has the technology changed since then. The quality is just so much better and they're so much cheaper now as well. So then I thought, well, if I'm going to buy this many buildings, if I buy a 3D printer and make my own, it's going to cost me a fraction of the cost. So that's what I've done. So I bought 3D printer. I bought one. So great. A couple of months later, I bought another one. So I've got two. I'm going to show you them shortly. But I want to do a bit of an introduction, you know me, on how I came to doing 3D prints. But the thing is, some people say I'm a pretty good painter. I paint. I've done watercolor paintings in the past. I used to be the vice president of the Art Society here where I live. So I thought, well, I've got the skill of painting. I might as well put that into use and make these buildings look more realistic instead of these ones you pay big monies for and they just look like a toy, a cheap plastic toy. But as soon as you put like HO or model railway on it, the price just inflates so big because model railway, and it's such a huge hobby, the supply and demand, you know, there's not enough supply for the demand. So the price is just inflated. Like the other day, right? Let me go grab a couple more items. For example, look at these die-cast cars. Now let me show you something, okay? These are die-cast, these are metal. Alright? This one here, look at the details on that. Okay? This was at Aldi for $2.50. $2.50, alright? This one, I bought this one at a Carrara Markets in Gold Coast a while back. I've got another one somewhere of a Range Rover similar to the Range Rover I used to have, the old Range Rover. And I think this was about $7 or something. This one, model of Pajero, this is about $50. So what's the difference? Alright, what's the difference? They're the same. They're made of die cast. Alright? the size. Look at the size. This is HO scale 187. This is a little bit bigger. This is a little bit bigger. This $2.50. This about $7. This $50. So that gives you an idea on the inflation when you got anything to do with the model railway. So let me go put these back and I'll come back. So, I looked into 3D printers to save money so I can start printing, including the vehicles. Make your own vehicles, anything. So I started printing the buildings and painting them, and I end up with stuff like this. Painted it all myself. Okay, HO buildings looks a lot more realistic than any of that shit you purchase, and a lot cheaper for me to make as well. So this one was predominantly printed on a filament printer, but I've also got a resin printer. So I'll grab one that was printed on the resin. Hang on guys, I'm just having trouble reaching it. I've got a lot of junk on my table here. The one I want to grab, I can't see it. Hang on, just bear with me. Oh, there it is. So this one is printed on a resin printer, painted by me. Now you can see it's half the size. This is for N scale. This is HO scale, which is the most popular. I've got both, N scale and HO scale. Originally I was going to start making N scale, and this is too small to print on a filament printer, particularly with all that fine details you see there. Alright, you won't get details like that unless you use a resin printer. Because this is all painted by me, so I painted all these. Alright, and I've got quite a few here now. So that's what I started making. I was planning on doing a N scale, but then I went to HO scale, so I was then able to print on the larger filament printer. But obviously you cannot print this size on a resin printer because they got a much smaller build plate. But I'll put this away. So I bought a resin printer. It's right here, right next to me, and it's going at the moment, guys. Let me see if I can just show you. So that's my resin printer. There's a fairly large print in there, printing right now, and it's about almost 60% through the print. But it's pretty big, probably one of the biggest pieces I've ever attempted to print on this here. And in fact, this is my third attempt to print it because I'm having trouble actually printing it. So I pulled it apart this morning and cleaned it and put a new filament film in this. Not a filament, a film in it to see if that works. And fingers crossed that works. But to be honest, I don't have any hopes. So that's a resin printer. Now with the resin printer you can get really fine details. That's the beauty. Let me show you something. So that is printed with a resin printer. So that is a miniature HO scale person, which I printed on resin and painted that. Who does that look like? Does that look like someone? It wasn't supposed to look like a particular person, but it just came out like that. I'm trying to get it to focus. Sorry guys, it is pretty small, and in fact I've even printed some that's even smaller than that. That's what you can do with resin printer. Again, these are expensive to buy pre-painted, and they're not as good quality as this painted as that. Okay, so that I printed, so it saved me a lot of money, so it's a good excuse to get one. So the beauty with these 3D printers, guys, particularly in today's technology and all the different resins you can get, you can also incorporate into making your own adapters and stuff for camping. Okay, say like now I've got a camper trailer, you know, if I need a mount for a monitor, instead of going uptown paying upwards of $100 for a mount to stick a monitor in, I can print one out. No problems at all. No problems at all. I can just print it out, and the quality comes out really, really good. So these 3D printers, you know, you can use them, you can print, it's just endless. So I thought to myself, well, what can I do with the 3D printer? What can I do? Then I thought, a hobby I used to do years ago, I used to love building scale models, cars, boats, stuff like that. So, yeah, it is an amazing bit of gear. So I thought, well, let's build some ships. And I'm a big fan of the Titanic. Okay? Hi Terry, how you going? Good to see you on here. And I love the Titanic, so I thought, well, why not build one? Big one. And so that's what I done. I built a Titanic. It took me a long time, but let me show you. Go grab it. Here is the Titanic that I built. I used both filaments. I took me time on this. I don't know if you can see little people in there as well. I've even got characters along there as well. Can you see them? All 3D printed and printed by me. So loved it, guy. Awesome hobby. So that is a 1/220 scale of the Titanic, and it's even got the colours that the Titanic was painted in. Isn't she a beautiful ship, the Titanic? Absolutely incredible ship. There you go. You can see all the details. So the hull Yeah, I can't wait too, Terry. The whole is printed with me filament printer. The second, third decks and so on are printed back. All those little small details. I don't know if you see the captain there. All these the chains and everything. That's all printed on resin. You cannot make this if you do not have both. So all printed on resin. So even got the boat. Hang on, it's in the front. Look there. You can see one of the lifeboats hanging over the end, ready to be released. Okay, I'll go put this away and I'll be back shortly. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy to make that one. There's a lot of parts in there, a lot of time, a lot of printing. So, yeah. But then I thought, well, why stop there? Let's do a slightly bigger 1/200 scale. This time of another famous ship. A World War II warship, the German. Can anyone know what ship this is? It's a perfect replica of it. This is 1/200 scale. So it's about 1.3 meters long. Slightly bigger than the Titanic. Again, see the chain there? That chain was 3D printed. Everything you see on here is all 3D printed. The whole works. And I painted it myself. This, of course, is the Bismarck. The famous World War II Bismarck. That could have changed. It's not quite finished, guys. It's still got a couple of props and that to put on there, but it's mostly completed. So, and see on the top, that's actually proper wood, but that's 3D printed. So you can actually get timber. You can print your own timber decks in 3D prints. So how awesome is that? I can't even fit it in the camera, guys. So I'm going to put this one back carefully. So I thought, well, that's cool. And then I had a bit more spare time. And I thought, why don't we try making a bigger one? So I'm working on a warship at the moment. It's not completed. That's going to be 2 meters long. That's what's printing in here right now in the resin printer. I'll show you my filament printer here shortly. I've mostly printed everything that I can with the filament printer, apart from decks 2, 3 and 4, etc. But I've got a 2 meter warship that I'm building. Just let me get one of the guns and show you the size of this thing. That is the size of one of the guns. Again, printed in resin. It's using the resin. You can see the fine details on that, guys. It's the beauty with the resin. Alright. I tried printing this with the filament printer and it was just a big huge failure. So So you need both. And lots of patience and knowing where to put the supports, etc. There's a lot of work you got to do on the computer to get these files made up, design these files, the supports. You got to add the supports on there. A lot of time spent in the computer. Many hours work involved this. This is going to be another Bismarck. I like how the Bismarck turned out so well, so I thought I'll do the same one. So let me show you front part of the deck. So there's 8 pieces of these that ends up, this goes on top of the hole. But that's the timber. So have a look at that. I don't know if you can see the details. Can you see that? So that's timber. So you can buy timber filaments, all right, and print them on your filament printers. So it's going to have an awesome timber deck on this one. You can see it's where the chain goes through. So that's part of a 2 meter. I'll show you. There's some more pieces, part of the second deck. Again, timber filaments, as you can see, 3D printed timber. Part here as well, the decks. And here's a part of the hole. So obviously, you got to have a big printer, filament printer to print this. So this is printed on a filament. Example, this piece here took about, I think it was 15 hours. No, this one might have been about 12 hours. I've got pieces there that's bigger than this. It took 15 hours to print. So there you go. 8 sections on this to make up. So and then you've got your weaponry, your guns. You see there. I don't know if that's focusing. Your weaponry, even at that big scale, still some of the guns are quite small. There's about 10 of these that surrounds around the Bismarck, and these are torpedo launcher. Again, 3D printed with resin, guys. Interesting technology. If you don't know about resin, it's a liquid form. It's liquid. So what it is, there's a plate like a glass. Yeah, I know, Terry. It's a little bit cooler today, but it's very humid, particularly in my hobby room. I'm actually quite wet because of how humid it is. But we haven't put the aircon on. So resin is a liquid form. So you buy it in bottles like so. Okay? And you pour it into this chamber dish that's got a glass bottom on it. And it's got like a UV light underneath. So when you upload the files, you create the files and upload and use a few software, and then upload the files to the printer, then it starts printing them one layer at a time. But what happens, you got a build plate that drops down into the resin, and then the LED light lights up the section that needs to print. And depending how long it lights up, that UV light, it makes the resin go hard. So initially, when you take them off there, they're not fully cured. They can be very pliable, very soft, hence which is one of the challenges with the resins. For that reason, you've got to use lots of supports. I don't have any to show you right now. I threw them all away. You've got to create all these supports, and if you put too many, you can't get apart without breaking the item. If you don't put enough, it collapses and so on. So everything's just got to be perfect, spot on to perfection. So it's a real art. It's you get a lot of hit and misses, but when you get it spot on, mate, you get quality like that. So, in fact, I've been having a few issues with my resin printer of late, so I've actually changed one of the films underneath it. The film, there's two films. One's a glass, so obviously you can't replace that, which is at the base. But in the resin tray, it's got a plastic underneath that gets, oh mate, there's like a million bolts in the thing that makes it really tight, and it gets that tight that you play, it sounds like a drum. So if you get your fingers like that, it sounds like the drums that the Chinese use in New Year's Eve. So I've replaced that today, and I've got this print going. I don't know if it's going to be a success or not. I mean, let's have a look. It's about 66% in. I'm a little bit worried. There seems to be something going on the right hand side here. So it's not an easy piece to print, this one. But hang on, I will show you quickly. Can you see that? See how it's printing? Now you can see all the supports there. I won't leave that open too long because UV light can cure that. Alright, susceptible to UV light. So yeah, interesting, isn't it? And I've got another printer here, a lot easier technology, just uses plastic, just prints plastic. You don't have the chemicals. That's the thing too, that's a nasty chemical. So I have actually built this, what you see here, this enclosure. I built that. It's an airtight enclosure, and it's got a ducted exhaust system that goes outside to get all the fumes and takes it outside. Okay, and sealed up. It's all rubber seals all the way around that. I cannot smell anything. I cannot smell that because that is very, very nasty chemicals. But then, to get that nastiness out of the chemicals, you've got to cure it. So how do you cure it? You've got to cure it with UV light. You know how it's cured in there? UV light, okay? But it's only curing just long enough to form a hard barrier in the resin. So the UV light just lights up where it needs to, layer by layer, and then you've got one layer. So each time that thing goes up and down, that's one layer. That's one layer. So this piece I'm printing now has got something like, what's about 3,000 layers, I think, or 4,000. Hang on, let me have a look. On the computer, I think it still shows on here. 2,055. 2,055 layers. It's going to go up and down like that. And it's taken around about 3 seconds each time. You see, you can adjust all that. That's another thing. You've got to adjust all those perimeters to get it to work. And don't think you can just go buy the resin and go off what it says on the packet. The environment makes a big difference. One day it will work and the next day won't, because it's different environment. It could be more humid. It could be a lot hotter. It's a lot cooler today. So, yeah, who knows, you know. So you tend to get a bit of hit and miss. When you get it spot on though, and you got a good day, and it works flawless, mate, you just pump them out, mate. Pump them out. When you get those days when the conditions are ideal, and you got the time set, you don't stop. You just print as much as you can while that thing's working. So quite often, I could be here for 15, 16, even 20 hours a day just printing that. And it's not something that you can just print, go away and leave. You gotta attend to it, right? With the resin, you gotta be there all the time. As soon, the second literally that finishes printing, you gotta get that out of there off the build plate. Otherwise, it's just going to collapse on you. All right, so not until you cue it. So how do you cue it? Well, you got to use UV light. It's got to be a certain wave UV light. I think something like 405 waves or something. So how do you do that? Well, you use one of these things. Hang on, let me put the lid on. You can buy these cheap when they go on sale, Boxing Day sales, etc. I bought this one, it was literally half the price. This is a wash station and UV light. See the UV there? So I can set the time, just sits in there, turns around, and that cures it. And then that makes it very hard plastic. So extremely hard plastic. So that's that one. Now, I also want to talk about these all-power battery backup systems. When I'm not camping, guys, obviously I'm not using them when I'm not camping because it's too hot to camp here right now. So, one day last week, I had a huge print job on this thing and it was almost completed and the power went out. Storm or something. Few mongrel. So I lost a fair bit of filament. So I thought, right, that's it. So I went and grabbed my two all powers. Okay, I've got them here. So I got the recent one that All Powers sent to me. The AS2000 that I've done a video on recently, which I'm going to do more videos on this, particularly when I start going camping. Alright, this one here. So I run both printers off this. So you can see the power consumption off the resin printer. So you can see it doesn't use a lot of power. And to be honest guys, this big boy here with a build plate 300 by 300 by 300. This is me filament printer. It also uses not much more power than a fairly bright light bulb. When you first turn this on, it's got a bit of a kick. There's a fair bit of power. But this can handle, because this can handle up to 2000 watts. So now when the power goes out, I've got enough battery capacity in this thing here to probably last, I don't know, what is it, 1500 watt capacity. And you can see what little power it's using. So I'll probably go the day easily without having power. So then that way I won't lose any more prints anymore. So while we got these nasty weathers, these nasty storms and all that, although this year we're not getting nowhere near as much as I told me it's getting close to the end of summer and better camping weather, Phil. Not close enough, Tim. We get some of our hottest days every year. Our hottest days, we tend to get them in March. So, mate, we still got about 6 weeks of hot weather to go here before it starts cooling down. So it's our summers last quite a long time here. So there you go. Now there are so many different, when you go to filaments, there are so many different types of filaments you can get. Some of the filaments are UV resistance. You can leave them outside, even in our climate, in 10 years time, come back and it'll still be the same. So those type of filaments are absolutely perfect to make your own accessories for your camper, whatever you got. Like, say, a plastic bracket breaks, then we've still got the original one. I can take a photo of it, put it in the CAD drawing software, and just replicate it, draw a line around it, replicate it, as long as I've got a ruler in the photo with the part of the product that's broken, and replicate that and print it out in all assorted different types of filaments. So obviously something like that, you want to use a filament which is either a ABS or ASA. ASA would be the best, although ASA is more difficult to print than ABS. But ASA is a lot easier if you've got a fully enclosed printer, like this fella, like that fella there. I'm trying to see if I can put this phone in such a way where you can see these printers. That'll do. So, this one here. So that's what I'm going to do this year. After I finish printing this 2 metre model ship here, I'll show you a quick look what I've got of it so far. I've got a table here that's close to 2 metres and it's overhanging the ends. Now this ship that I'm building, guys, I said ship, S-H-I-P, even though it sounds like something else. This ship I'm building is, yeah. If you want to go buy one, I found a website, a guy in the States that builds them similar to how I'm building this one here, at around this scale. And the only difference he's doing is he's actually turned it into radio control. Now I can easily turn that into radio control if I want. In fact, I've got enough radio control gear, servos, etc. I think just need to go buy a 2-cell LiPo battery and about 3 motors, because there's 3 props on that, 3 motors, and the rest I've got, and I could turn this into an RC. I may still do it because I haven't finished putting the whole hole together. I'm looking into it. How awesome would that be? But to be honest, I don't think I'll be able to cart it around because it's 2 metres long. I don't think it's going to fit in the car, so what point in doing it at that size, making it RC if I can't bring it around. So I think it's just going to be a static display. Here, hanging on the wall somewhere, on the shelf on the wall in me, above my model railway set in me hobby room. So yeah, I can turn that. So this guy is selling them at this scale with the same, similar, exactly same what I'm making here. He's selling for $8,000 US. And this, in the end, is probably going to cost me a few $100s to build. If that. I don't know. I am taking a record on how much filament I'm using, and then when I'm finished building it, I'll be able to work out how much it's going to cost then. But I suppose if I include the paints, I don't know, that may include the paints. I just use the spray can. I just go buy the, go to Bunnings, get your Rust-Oleum, mask it off and paint it with that. And then you've got your little sailors, a 3D print, and just paint them with a brush. So there's a little sailor man sitting down, ready for this big 2 metre Bismarck that I've been working on as well. So, yeah. Let me show you a bit. You guys want to have a look? So that's my hand. Give you an idea of the size of this thing. Hang on. I've got a lot of stuff here everywhere. And there's this part that goes on here as well. Ah, sorry guys, sorry. I know that was loud. He just about freaking blew me eardrums, that bird. And this is the tail end of it. Thanks, Craig. Which bolts and glues onto the end. So I've only connected this section here together so far. That's connected on. So I've still got 8 more pieces. I've still got the second level, third level, fourth level to put on there. This here will end up way up here somewhere. So you can see lots of other different sections there. There's some stuff, all the 3 smaller parts that's printed, the resin there, there's more stuff there. So I'm basically just trying to print as much as I can and then start putting it together. The front, the bow is over here. This is the section that goes into the front here, the bow, so this all gets glued down. So as you can see, it overhangs the table here and it overhangs the table over there. And this is a pretty big table. But at this scale, you can only print, if you got one of these huge Creality K1 Maxes with a 300 by 300 by 300 build plate size. In fact, Creality's got one that's a K2 plus, but it's a lot more money, but it's got 350 by 350 by 350 build plate, but it's like virtually twice the money of this. You also will need one of these heater dryers if you want to print in ASA, PETG, stuff like that, because you cannot have any moisture. That's the timber. That's the timber filament. You cannot have any moisture in these filaments, otherwise you'll get failure. These PLA ones right there, not so much an issue as your ASAs, your PETGs, etc. So again, when you're not camping, the All Powers, good value for money. This is the one I recently did a video on. There's going to be more videos than this. And in fact, any day now, we've got 73% complete here. And if I open this door up, it's latched. I built all this because of the nasty chemicals. Now I can't smell anything, guys. Even with this door open, there's enough suction there. You can probably hear it. It's just blowing all these nasty chemicals out. So let's have a look and see what we got here. Hang on. I need both hands to lift this up. Yeah, I'm a bit worried about that one, guys. I think I've got another failure there. I'm not too sure what's going on. I'm having some issues printing that one. So I might have to stop that and save the filament and see if I can print not filament, resin, and see if I can print that section with the filament printer. It's a lot more reliable, has trouble printing the finer details but I think this piece is large enough for that to contend with. So yeah, I'm going to do that. So guys, I think that's all. Oh, before we go, let's go out in the shed and talk about a video I want to film soon on now I haven't camped for a while, so if you've got a caravan, this is some advice to you guys that got a caravan, and most of you have nowadays, even just a camper van and your camping gear. If you got a caravan, all that stuff, in my case I've got this awesome camper van and I haven't camped for quite some time. Don't just leave it out in the environment. Don't just leave it in your shed and all closed up, because when you go to use it next, you're going to have problems. So you got ongoing maintenance, and if you keep up with the maintenance, let me see if I can prop this up somewhere. If you keep up with the maintenance, guys, when it's camping time, you go camping, you're going to have a huge success. You're not going to have any problems. Everything's going to work. So in my case, what I do once a month, and it's due now, I'm going to do a video on it and show you exactly what I do. Once a month, I hook this up. I try to take it round the block for a quick drive, just to loop the wheels, the bearings and all that. And then I'll back it up in here, and then I'll set it up and let it air out for a couple of days. And then the hot water system, I actually run that about once a week, so the water doesn't contaminate in there, and I always leave the tanks full. And so I flush through once a week. I run the hot water system, and then once a month I run the diesel heater. So a lot of you have got diesel heaters now. You don't want to let them, the fuel just set in those small pipes, etc., and the pumps, because it gunks up, and once it gunks up, mate, you've got a shit of a time trying to get that thing going again. And then usually what happens, up for dollars to replace all the fuel lines and pumps and etc. to get it going again. But if you run it once a month on high for half an hour, and that's what I do all the time. And every time I do canvas, make sure it's fully dry before you pack it away. You might get a rainy season. There's been times I've had to left it set out here for 4 or 5 days before it was fully dry. That's fine. It's waterproof. No water gets in it. So get your gear out. Use it. Run fresh water through. I've since used some contaminants, powder stuff for cleaning tanks, and I've gone through and cleaned both tanks on this and run fresh water throughout it. And check your batteries. Cycle the batteries. I run the heater, cycle the battery, and then charge it once a month. Check the zips. I got a little bit of food grade silicone spray. I spray on the zips, run it a few times. That way, air out. Open these cabinets up, air out, check everything, rewash, run the gas, make sure the gas lines, everything, make sure nothing's leaking, everything, check all the lights. I know when I'm ready to go camping, all I've got to do is just grab some food, some clothes, put it in here, hook up on the back, and away I go. And I know I'll get to camp and everything's going to work, and I'm not going to open it up and find mould particularly in this environment here. So I'm going to do a video and show all that and explain that next time I get this out. In fact, today would have been a perfect day because it's hot in here, but it's nothing like what it has been. Make sure the lights are full, make sure the tyres are good, make sure the bearings, well, I've got new bearings in this thanks to Terry. He helped me with the bearings. In fact, to tell a story about that, when I first bought this, I didn't know what the history of the bearings were. So after I got home, I went to go remove the bearings and I couldn't get some couple of cups out. They were stuck in there good and solid. So I took the whole hub into a professional brake shop in town. And I said, can you press these out? And they mucked around it for half an hour and I couldn't get them out. So I told Terry and he says, bullshit. What do you mean they couldn't get them out? I said, yeah, they couldn't get them out. So he jumped in the car and drove to Bundy and he managed to get them out. Thanks, Terry. So I got all good quality Japanese bearings and bearing cups and all that in there. That was all put in there not long after I got this. So that was awesome. Yeah, I just check. Another thing is I go around with a bit of WD-40 and spray a few areas here and there. Clean it up. I clean it, give it a wash as well. Each time it's out, I give it a wash, bit of a polish and that. Clean the alloy, the wheels, check the wheels, the tyres. Get underneath and check everything, make sure everything working fine. So if you do that once a month, guys, stuff like this is going to last you forever. Now, whoever owned this thing before me, like this is only 6 years old, but if you saw the condition that this was in when I bought it, mate, I worked months and months and months to look after this. So prior owners to this had no maintenance, didn't fix anything. Did a lot of dodgy work on it, attempted to put their own wiring in to find that they had a 200 watt inverter in there with wiring that's thick as a pencil running off that. And then not only that, when I was looking at it, I thought, geez, those battery lugs look a little bit unusual to me, and I grabbed them and hold them on the negative and it was loose. So I thought, shit, they're bloody loose. So I grabbed the spanner to tighten it up and it wouldn't tighten. So the bolts were too long. So I had to rip all the wiring out. The whole lot, guys, the whole lot. Ripped everything out. Let me tell you a story about the day after I bought this. Poor old Keithy Surf, if you're watching this, he'll have a laugh. Yes. The day after I towed it back, no, I actually stayed at Sunny Coast for a few days on the way back, catching up with family that was staying there at the time, and went to the Sunshine Coast 4-wheel drive camping show. So I camped at the caravan park in Sunny Coast on the beach there for about 3 nights on the way back home, then came back. And the next day Keith rocks up because he wants to have a look. And I was laying underneath the camper in the backyard here trying to find a water leak. And he says, what you doing? I said, mate, I've got a water leak. It's dripping here and I can't find where it is. Where's your pump? I said, it's inside. He said, I'll go have a look at the pump. So he goes inside and he says, how do you turn the water pressure on? I said, oh, well, there's a switch just out here. I'll go and switch it on. And I turned it on and he got soaked. Poof! This water. Well, the leak was near the pump. It was funny. And it was a cold day too. He didn't hang around too long before he left. I said, oh, thanks, mate. You found the leak. I said, yeah. No, he said, Phil, I found the leak. I said, where? It's in here where the pump is. What do you mean? Are you sure? He said, my oath, I'm sure. I'm soaking wet. And I called out and looked at him. I just cracked up laughing. Oh, shit. I said, oh, fuck, I better go turn the pump off then. No, he said, yeah. And I turned it off, and that's where it was leaking. So I replaced all the water lines and everything. And then, of course, I designed my own hot water system in here as well. So there was just no maintenance whatsoever the guy done on this. So I spent months, but I bought it cheap though. He's probably in a way he's done a favour to me, because I paid like $6,000 less than what this would have been worth as it is now, if he had not of done the service on it. So there was even bits of mould on the inside, because the guy had it parked out in the weather, and he didn't have a cover or anything on it, and he never opened it, the previous owner. So I'm the third owner. The first owner owned it for most of the time, and then the second owner bought it, and he only kept it for 3 months. I think he used it once or twice and found it too big for him, so he put it up to sale, and he had a particular price on it that was reasonable, but it was still $3,000 out of my budget. And then it went, and it was at Gold Coast, not far from where my sister lived. And then it went offline. I thought, oh, I must have sold. About 3 days later, it popped up again for 10 grand. And I thought, wow. And I had the money, the cash saved up then too. So as quick as I could, I jumped in the car, drove down there, had a look. Yep, I was happy with it. Bought it, and here she is. But I saw there was issues with it. I picked it out, but it was at the right price. It's only 6 years old. Great condition, no rust, beautiful paintwork. Looks awesome. You wouldn't know that this thing is 6 years old, honestly. So I fixed everything that needed to be fixed and improved it by adding a diesel heater in it. And let me tell you guys, the diesel heaters are a game changer in these things, eh? Oh boy, geez, they work well. I was camping in places in the sunny coast hinterland last year where I walked outside and there was icicles hanging off the vehicle. So don't think it doesn't get cold in Queensland, guys. It shouldn't get cold here. There was icicles like that hanging off it. And in fact, even off the camper. But I was inside my camper in t-shirt and shorts like this, toasty warm. It was awesome, absolutely awesome, because of that diesel heater. Mate, magic. Love it, love it. And I've got that other one that's sitting there behind me. They're going to do more videos on when the weather starts cooling down. That looks friggin' awesome. It really does. So, yeah, all right. I'm actually going to turn the hot water system on. So all I've got to do when I do that, I've got a door here with all the electrics in it. And I've actually left it on, but that's all right. I've got the water pump